Welcome to Richard and Greg, a channel dedicated to discussion, debate and argument on a whole array of topics. Today we talk to Greg about the current coronavirus figures, UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson's announcement to the British people this evening, and the fact that we have now reached 4 million cases worldwide and America has surpassed 80,000 deaths. So let's listen to the discussion with Greg. Welcome to Richard and Greg. Today is Sunday, the 10th of May 2020, and the time is 20:33 GMT +1. Today we're going to talk to Greg about not only the current figures, but the fact that worldwide they've hit over 4 million in terms of those identified as having coronavirus. America has actually hit 80,000 deaths, and UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson has made an announcement this evening to the British people. So to catch up with all of this, we'll go over to Greg. Greg, good evening.
Good evening. Though I think I'm lying. All of a sudden we're back plunged into winter. It is truly cold out. It's blowing a gale, but thank heavens it's dry. Interesting day. The reason we are a little delayed in this podcast, we should have done one yesterday really, was my suggestion to Richard that we delayed until we had heard the comments of Boris Johnson that he announced last Wednesday. He was going to make comments on the roadmap ahead as we try to get back to some sort of economic equilibrium after a pretty prolonged period of lockdown. We heard, of course, yesterday, on Friday from the Queen, who gave us a speech on a repeat of her father's speech of 75 years ago on the day of Victory Europe, when Germany surrendered and her various allies in Europe surrendered, and Britain and our allies were able to rid Europe of the evils of German militarism and the effort to create a militaristic unity dominated by Germany and its allies across Europe. This is celebrated on a regular basis in conjunction with America and those who at the time were our allies, Russia. And the Queen gave a moving speech, a speech which is most unusual in that in the whole of her reign, other than a Christmas broadcast of goodwill to the Commonwealth, she has only made about 3 major speeches to the nation. Then today, Boris Johnson at 7 p.m. local time gave a summary of the situation regarding coronavirus and COVID-19 and the reassurance that we've all noticed that we have managed to stay on top of it. We have managed to control the virus to some extent, which actually took a lot of doing because we were in a position where there was no one alive who had ever experienced a pandemic. there was no one alive who had ever been able to point out where mankind had ever controlled a pandemic virus previously. Yes, we've had some success with smallpox, with polio, and with various other diseases. Public health has given us the opportunity of dealing with diseases like cholera, and we have managed to all but eradicate yellow fever. We've had very little outbreak on a worldwide basis of green monkey disease, Marburg's disease, Ebola, and the various other pernicious viruses and bacteriological pestilences which have killed mankind in huge numbers. Minded that probably the worst that exists nowadays is malaria, and probably one of the largest killers is cholera, or straightforward diarrhea, which dehydrates and kills huge numbers of children around the world annually. This virus, we still don't understand its varieties. There are some 15 to 20 subsections of the virus and different reactions to the virus COVID-19, as far as we can work out. Some people it attacks the kidney, the liver, the pancreas, and other major organs. Other people, it manifests with many of the symptoms similar to pneumonia and pleurisy. But even then, it's not as simple as that, because it kills sections of the lung. It gives rise to incredible shortness of breath, and it has a fairly unpleasant morbidity rate. The UK is currently titled as the second highest morbidity worldwide. This, of course, is a complete nonsense, because if you take Spain, which everyone says we far exceed, well, the population of Spain is 40% lower than that of the United Kingdom. So comparing the two figures is absolutely specious. Even if you compare us with Italy, the population of Britain is 10% greater than that of Italy. So comparing the two is utterly specious. The other thing that is worthy of note is the land mass involved. The area of Britain is fairly small for our 67 million population. We have one of the densest populated areas in the world. In fact, when people quote, we should have done what New Zealand did and what Australia did, this comes from opposition politicians who are posturing and weenie waggling just for notoriety in what I can only describe as an anti-British attempt to belittle the achievements of Britain in controlling the figures and the achievements of our government, which have been really exemplary. New Zealand has a little bit bigger area than Britain. We have 67 million people, They have 4.8 million. New Zealand has half the population of London. So I don't think we can take any lectures from New Zealand on how to deal with this virus when they have hardly any people. Far more sheep live in New Zealand than human beings. And it is so far from anywhere that its tourism figures and its trade with the rest of the world, predicated by how small their population is minuscule. So their opportunities for catching and transferring the disease are tiny. Australia is about 5 smallish cities, a 20-mile strip down one side, a road from across the island, continent, Darwin and Cairns stuck out on the limb, and Alice Springs. It is hardly surprising that their figures for the disease are well controlled. This is not so much an achievement as one of the advantages of living in the back end of beyond. So comparing figures is a little bit foolish. Though I must say it is difficult to disagree with President Obama's leaked confidential conversation regarding Trump's handling of the disease in America. So what are we going to do from here on in? We have managed to avoid a spike or a peak or whatever else you want to call it, and we have managed a plateau situation. Yes, we've had almost 32,000 deaths out of 219,000 people who have reported with the disease. However, unlike Spain and Italy and other countries, we have recorded almost every death that could possibly be described as resulting from COVID-19. And we've added those numbers in. We've compared them with the figures that are produced weekly by the Office of National Statistics, the ONS, and it roughly tallies. Of course, we will not know exact figures for some time. However, Spain and Italy don't include any deaths that occur at home. They don't include any deaths of people who may or may not have had COVID-19 that haven't actually been tested to prove it was COVID-19. They have not included deaths in the community or deaths in old people's homes, only deaths in hospitals. Little wonder our figures are per capita higher than many countries. But we're still lagging behind Spain and Italy by a considerable amount when it comes to per capita. Though there is nothing to be complacent about, which is why, with the need to get our economy to actually function and our country to be in a position of earning an income, we have to be considering what are the next steps. We have it down to a repeat level of the disease that if we can keep it down to a number below 1, in other words, one person infected, infecting only one other, as we are currently standing between 0.5 and 0.9, depends on which sectors of the population we're talking of, we must start to get the economy going again. Initially, as of next Wednesday, and as an outcome of a debate on and announcement by Boris Johnson in considerably more detail than he gave this evening to Parliament tomorrow, as is right and proper, we will be permitting rather more social movement. People will be permitted to leave their homes, to have periods of exercise. They can drive to locations where they wish to exercise, and they can have as much exercise in a day as they wish. They may even go into parks or open areas, including beaches, and sit in the sunshine, though today sitting in the sunshine in a fur coat trying to keep warm would have been a little foolish, I think. You're likely to die of flu instead of COVID-19. It's been so damn cold. But there will be an easing up. However, only, and it is stressed, only if social distancing is maintained. We will relax the position so that people can do these extra things, walk their dog as often as they want to during the day, have exercise, even play games with members of the family, as long as social distancing is maintained, which means that you can go with members of your family, perhaps, and play golf or tennis, badminton, or the like, but maintain social distancing unless they are people of the same household, in which case the social distancing pales into insignificance because you're not socially distanced in the household. People are also encouraged, where possible, to work from home, but where their job demands it, to go to work in certain fields to start with. One area is nurseries, plant nurseries and garden centres. Another is the construction industry and its supply. And another is manufacturing, but only if the place of work can maintain safe social distancing. And you are encouraged not to use public transport if you can provide another, whether that is walking to work, riding a bicycle to work, jogging to work, or going by car or motorbike. However, if many people take to bicycles, that will result in nightmare on the roads, because many of our roads are not wide enough or safe enough for cyclists to wobble their way up hills, interfacing with trucks, lorries, and cars. But with these parameters treated responsibly, The motto has now become basically act with common sense rather than stay at home. So it has also been stated that this will be monitored on a very careful basis. If it looks as if it is going to increase the mortality rate, then those advantages will go by the board and a degree of lockdown will be brought back. We are not going to risk pushing up the numbers of deaths and the possibility of overwhelming our health service, which has served us brilliantly to date, as have our supermarkets, our fire services, our paramedics, and the like. So that's how we stand at the moment. There is no talk of going back to school until at the very earliest at the beginning of June, at which stage it will only be considered for the last part of this summer term for induction classes at starter classes and promotion classes, i.e. class 6, which means that they will have had an opportunity to meet their teachers before the prolonged summer holidays, with a view to actually going back to school full time at the beginning of the Christmas term, which would be round about the beginning of September. So it will be very slow progress, monitored all the way, and it will not be until at the earliest the 1st of July that private shops, small businesses, and the like will return to anything approaching normality as we have known it in the past. We can see immediately at this stage that it is going to be a new normality for the foreseeable future. We are going to be in this situation of push and pull regarding the start of people working together and cooperating together, as they have done fairly well to date, to relaunch the economy and get the wheels of commerce turning again. But when I say push and pull, if it looks as if it is going to push up the reproduction of the virus, then it will be locked down again. There is not going to be any risk taken in that direction. I can foresee this going on for at least another 2 years, because it's going to take at least that long, even if everything goes according to plan, to start to find anything approaching a viable vaccine that can be administered to sufficient people to control the virus successfully. And that is only if, and I stress if, we can find a successful vaccine. Bear in mind, we have been trying to find a successful vaccine for the common cold since the concept of vaccine was first discovered, and we have failed. We have supposedly a flu vaccine, but it is very much a hit and miss situation because flu as a virus mutates at quite an alarming rate. Net result, we are always one step behind with the vaccine. It may give a certain amount of immunity or a certain degree of control, but it can hardly be seen as a 100% vaccine. So we can but hope. And the other thing that we have to bear in mind is that COVID-19 is only the known recent mutation of the coronavirus, which has no resemblance to flu or anything else we really understand. So it's a matter of experimentation and maintaining a strong contempt for everybody who is being a complete smartass for political gain in trying to pretend they could do it better and know what they're talking about. It has, if nothing else, proved beyond shadow of doubt in these United Kingdoms the folly of many areas of devolution.
Greg, on that note, we have literally 1 minute left before the end of this. I mentioned at the start, we've now hit worldwide cases of over 4 million, 4.1 million, and America's hit that 80,000 death figure, which was an elusive figure only 2 weeks ago, where the president was predicting 60,000, then a week ago 70,000, and then a few days ago 100,000. Out of interest, and I'll just put you on the spot, I know none of us are fortune tellers, where do you think the global position will be in, say, a week from now, and American deaths a week from now?
America is in a position where I think that it's doubling its death rate about every 2 weeks, but I can't be certain on that. I've not actually looked at it, but it just gives roughly that feel.
Yeah, it's
2
down,
to 3 weeks ago,
today.
It was on 40,000.
Yeah, it's down today to 488 deaths. So
yeah, yes, but bear in mind what day of the week it is.
Yes.
That figure will be wildly inaccurate because many people don't report any of the details back on a Sunday. And as far as Britain is concerned, I expect the 268 we've quoted today will transpire to have been nearer 400 once we even it out, because this is the weekend and it comes immediately after VE Day and a bank holiday. So I think that all sorts of figures will have to be adjusted up. And as I've said repeatedly since we first started doing these podcasts, I think the figures are bunkum. We're only comparing like with like, in that the figures are the same rubbish to compare with the rubbish we had yesterday.
So would it be fair to say then, if it's currently 80,500, when we speak this time next Sunday, it's likely to be 120,000 in your view?
I would have thought around about 120. And I think that there is still every possibility, particularly in America, which is being very cavalier about its concepts of lockdown and its lack of leadership, competent leadership that is more interested in the economy. And as some countries have been harsh enough to state, such as Brazil, it is more important to keep the economy going than save the lives of the people. there is still a possibility, if we were that cavalier in Britain, of having between 500,000 and 2 million deaths, and still that possibility of 10 million deaths in America. It's a possibility. I'm not saying it will happen, but Brazil has hardly started. Its only saving grace is big chunks of wilderness between its major conurbations. But when you see places like Manaus, where the death rate will become terrible, as it will in the favelas of Rio, as it will in the slums of Sao Paulo, as it will in the squalor of Belém. It is not a simple answer.
No. Well, on that note, we have to end it, and I'm going to have to teach you how long 2 minutes is. Thank you very much for your commentary this evening.
I hope they're of help, and good luck to everybody. Let's hope we all pull out the other side very quickly.
Cheerio. We hope you enjoyed that discussion, and if so, kindly subscribe to our channel and press the bell sign so that you are notified of our videos as and when they are published. And also in the description box below, we place links to certain books, articles and programs which you may find of benefit, and for which we will receive a small commission should you purchase through our link. And this will help support our channel and to enable us to develop it further.